Hey, this is Anthony from RevZilla. Watch, decide, and ride. Welcome to our detailed breakdown of the new Arai Signet-X and Quantum-X helmets available at RevZilla.com. Oh my God, it's 2 for 1. This is the new Arai Signet-X and Quantum-X helmet, and there is a reason we're shooting both of these helmets going into 2017 in the same video. It is because they are the same helmet, but the fit changes. In the past, we saw the Arai Signet-Q, which is a long oval head shape, and we saw the Arai RX-Q, which was going to be an intermediate to neutral oval head shape. They have now taken those two helmets and basically homologated all of the features, functionality, and all of the protection schemes and really just changed the fit. If we look at it in front of me, I'm gonna walk through the entirety of everything that changed on both these helmets, because remember, taking this leap forward into 2017, these helmets got quieter, they got more adjustable, they're stealing new DNA off the brand new Corsair X. They are really at the apex of what I would consider a touring, sport touring helmet that's Snell DOT. You can absolutely take it to the track. It's not a race thoroughbred, but the key change here, I'm gonna start with it, is that with my Signet-X helmet, the Signet-X is the continuation of the Signet-Q shape. It is an intermediate to long oval. I am an intermediate oval helmet. If you are longer and narrower than I am, you would be the Signet-X. I would be the Signet-X. Now, when we think about the Quantum-X, which is replacing the RX-Q, they actually made a change here. The old RX-Q was what I would consider intermediate to neutral. It was somewhere in the middle. They've gone back, and the reason they're calling it the Quantum-X is they've gone back to the original round to neutral quantum shape. So, the Quantum-X is going to be more round than the RX-Q if you're making that upgrade. So keep that in mind. Remember, use a size chart, use a Gear Geek, because you're investing here north of that $550, north of that $600 level. But that is the key change in really what I believe to still be one of the best handmade, protective, and functional helmets coming out of Japan for the racer that's not trying to go do hardcore track days. Remember, click our logo, subscribe to us at RevZilla on our YouTube channel. I'd love to hear your comments, your questions, your feedback, but these key changes really are fit between these two helmets. Other than that, they are exactly the same. Now, let's take a step back from that and let's talk about some of the key changes here. I'm gonna briefly run down what you'd be looking at when you're choosing to pick a Signet-X or a Quantum-X. Really in the same category is what I consider the juggernaut in this category, which is something like the Shoei RF1200, which is gonna almost be $200 less expensive. What you're getting here, a lot of these leaps forward in functionality. Now your EPS, or not your EPS, but your comfort liner is going to be fine-tunable. You have fine-tunability in your cheek pads that you've already had. You now have venting that goes down behind the ear. They've made it a quieter helmet by changing the vent scheme. Again, and the big change in my opinion, especially for the everyday rider, remember, it's not a drop-down sun visor, but this new VAS shield, and I'm gonna completely uninstall it, now has a much more usable side pod and removal mechanism. So again, you have a helmet that if you really think about it, and you're investing in protection and comfort for longer distance or everyday riding, and you really don't want to sacrifice, you're looking at the most fine-tunability coupled with comfort and protective features that we're seeing within this, call it $450 to $650 price range. And again, remember, this bad boy is going to play north of the $600 mark. Now, if we start from the outside, let's work our way in. And remember, this is our silver. There's going to be black, you're going to have white, you're going to have graphics on both. And if we start from the outside and work our way in, remember, it's still that 3 pounds, 9 ounce high-end PBSNC shell material from Arai. Peripherally belted, that's how it passes the Snell rating, and then the structural net composite. So again, it's gonna be a mixture of carbon fiber, aramid, organic resins, making a really long, really strong shell. And if we look at it, remember, Arai believes in the power of the sphere, and they add that hyper ridge down here to make sure you keep the energy and shock within the helmet and don't transfer it to the collarbone. Remember, a helmet is an energy management system. Some of the key changes that you're gonna notice here, we start talking about venting. Remember, you have a 2-position vent to the face, to the shield. As we work our way up, these are the new style chimney vents here on the Signet-X and Quantum-X. And what they've done is it used to be a rocker on top. They've made them quieter. They still go through a 10mm vent hole into the helmet itself, but what you're getting now is the ability to completely close the cavity, and when you close that cavity, you don't get any whistle even when the vent is closed. The previous version would still allow air into the cavity, and it would tend to whistle. So again, making it a more quiet and more usable helmet. As we flip around to the back, you're still going to see a great spoiler that's gonna break up the flow over the helmet. It's also going to guide air over the extraction points. Remember, high-speed air over a sphere creates a vacuum, and that's going to pull warm, moist air out of the helmet. On the back here, you're going to have 2 extractors, and they've changed it. Instead of a up and down motion for open and close, they've given you a 3 position, which is open, halfway closed, and all the way closed. I like that they're giving you the middle position. I don't like that the previous version you could just kind of sweep your hand front to back and open and close it, a little bit more usable. But again, they're upgrading the functionality. And the other thing here too is if we come back the downside of the shield here, or the shell rather, you're gonna see your winglets. And your winglets are on both sides, and this is one of those upgrade points where another point of extraction that you don't see on something like the RF1200, that's what you're investing in. You now have the air flowing over the top of your ear from your temple all the way down through the back of the helmet, and it extracts along the side. You also see that they've updated the extractor down around the neck roll. Again, 5 points of extraction from this helmet where some of the competitors, even in this $400, $500, $600, $700 range, might only have 2. If we come back around to the front, you're going to see a few other things going on here. The first one is this system right here, and they claim that it comes from F1 technology. There are only a few gripes I have with this helmet, and this is really one of them. I'm not a big fan. I like the direction a lot of other manufacturers are going right now with the ambidextrous locking mechanism in the middle that you could use either hand for. Arai's very excited about this mechanism that the shield comes down. Remember, the VAS shield, polycarb, optically correct, UV proof. It comes down, it locks in. I always never know which direction they want to go with it. And you still have to take your finger and push it the way up. I don't really think you're buying anything with it. Again, that's just my opinion. But if we look at the rest of the shield, this is where the changes come in with the new VAS shield. And this is actually what I really like. So, pin lock 120 Max Vision coming in the box. You're getting that double walled construction, ability to be fog free, and it's not chemical. It's actually like a dual pane window. You still have your eyelids here, which are going to vent into the vents right into the top of the brow. They go right to the temple, which are pressure points and hot spots to help cool you off. But here's the big change. The change now is the new VAS shield. Watch the magic. So I open the shield, and I see this little guy right down here. I push this little guy. I'm going to push you in on both sides. And I'm going to show you how quickly and simply these side pods. For those of you that have owned Arais before, this is where you break your helmet. This is where you lose your side pods. This is where you curse the Japanese and say, damn it, improve your side pods. You make an amazing helmet. Well, they did. And we saw them do it for the first time on the Corsair X. Look how these guys hang. You can remove them and change them if you do happen to break them. But what they're doing is they're exposing the they're exposing, oh, I'm removing it there. They're exposing the VAS system. Now what I have here, and you can see it if it goes up and down, notice how that goes in. You notice how when it comes down, you're going to see this gasket becomes engaged because the helmet comes down and it locks in, creating that great seal from the weather, from the wind, and head checks. You're going to be better covered. But what I'm going to have to do is really pop this back off again. If I push these guys in, you're going to see on both sides, what I now just did was I have the ability so quickly and so easily take my VAS shield off. And you can see how they've done this. They're finally making the shield mechanism user-friendly without compromising on that Snell DOT rating and really where they're going at the highest level of protection. And that's why we've seen Arai be a little bit laggard. That's why Arai won't do a drop-down sun visor. It compromises a Snell standard. We see that Pro Shield mechanism, which I'm sure we're going to see roll out for this at some point in the future. Now to reinstall, all I do is I take my gold dots. I love the gold. And it's a little harder on this backside. I'm going to do them at one at a time. I align it with the red. There's my red dot. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click it in on one. I'm going to come around to the back side here. You can't see me doing it. I promise I'm doing the same thing. Click it here on two. And now I have reinstalled my VAS system. And watch how simply and easily this works. Actually, it has to be up. 1 and 2. That was an ordeal on the previous version of an RXQ, Signet-Q, on the previous version of a Corsair 5. Corsair X and now my Signet-X and Quantum-X have the best shield change mechanism we've seen from Arai. So if you want iridium, if you want smoke, however you want to play it, you're good to go. Again, you're not compromising on the clarity. You do have the Pinlock Max Vision 120 coming in the box, giving that full scope of view. But again, from the outside in, it's a lot of changes, and the only one that I'm really not over the moon about is this shield change or the shield locking mechanism, which for me, it's kind of a take it or leave it factor there. Now, if I bust out my donut, let's start talking about some of the other changes they've made to the Arai Signet-X and Quantum-X. And if we look at it, there are a handful of things you're going to notice that are different. The first one is that the chin skirt has been extended, and you can't tell, but it's a hydrophobic material. So now it's not a material that will wick moisture. The bottom of this is designed to create a better seal around your head, be quieter, again, wick sweat on the inside without, if you put this on your seat and your seat is damp, it's not going to pull moisture in. But what you have here is a material that's giving you better comfort for quiet, but they've also made it mesh on the side. And what that mesh does is when it's cold out and there's warm, moist air or breath coming out, it's going to allow it to breathe a little bit, so it's not going to counteract the anti-fog properties of that Pinlock Max Vision. So having these two mesh panels here gives you a hair more breathability to diffuse warmer, moister air and create really a balance so you're not going to be constantly fogging. So notice how quickly and easily this removes. Again, never want to break stuff, but sometimes you just have to manhandle it. Notice if I flip it over, still premium materials. And remember, as we get into the bottom here, they've gone eco-pure. In the previous Signet Q and RXQ, we saw the Pro Tour versions use the Eco Pure material, which was an upgrade from an antimicrobial standpoint, from a comfort standpoint, quality of liner standpoint. We're seeing Eco Pure come stock now on the Signet-X and the Quantum-X. And if we look here, we still have our chin spoil that I call it the convertible mechanism. It still goes up and down. You're still seeing your emergency cheek pad removal system. Now, I will say this to Arai, and they're going to yell at me for saying this. If you have your chin curtain on, there is no way if you're out cold laying on the ground somewhere that some EMT is going to know to reach in and snake out this emergency cheek pad removal system. Or on the track. Maybe on the track because you're going to have a doc that's used to taking helmets off of riders. But ultimately, with that chin curtain extended now, it completely blocks these elements. So I don't think they're going to be found. Again, it's a trade-off. Many things are. That's just my 2 cents. If we get into the liner itself, remember, this is where you're investing at the Arai level. I'm going to reach in. I'm going to start uninstalling here. Notice how these come off. They're pretty well integrated. It's integrated with my neck roll. It comes out here. I have a tab here that I'm going to pull. Again, when you start moving these, they're typically not the most exciting things to put back together, but when, again, you're going for technicality and you're going for precision and you're going for adjustability, sometimes the trade-off is it's harder to put back together. You need to take your time. Now, if we look at the changes they've made here, this is your classic facial contour system from Arai. All of this gray is removable, 5 millimeters of tunability. Notice that this is die cut right there as well. I could pull it out and mount my speaker there if I wanted to use a comm unit. There's my emergency cheek pad removal system. And you can see the texture here on the Eco Pure liner. A little bit more meshy on top. Down here, it's going to be scalloped, or it has that tessellated factor to it. Again, that's that big upgrade on the liner now Arai is using as they continue to raise their game. If I go in here for the other one, I'm not going to use the emergency cheek pad removal system. Here it is. Figure out where I'm reaching here. Just pop this bad boy out. Start to slide it out. Same thing on both sides. Again, remember, contoured. And again, they come, this is a medium, it comes with 25 millimeter. You can always go up or down if you want to completely change a contour, or if your face shape is more anomalous and you want to make sure it fits comfortably. But notice even how it hugs the jawline. You can see that ridge. It's going to hug the jawline, create a good seal, make sure it's a snug fit. Again, this helmet's Snell and DOT rated. Absolutely phenomenal helmet for everyday use or taking it to track days. Everything here has to need to be properly fit and properly dense at 140 miles an hour on a track somewhere. It's not going to be sliding all over your face. Again, extreme conditions, extreme helmet. We already talked about the fact that you now have this new diffuser on the back that's been improved, taking more moist air over the helmet, extracting out the back underneath the occipital ridge. Now if I go, remember, neck rolls always rotate out from Arai. Remember, improved Eco Pure lining. As I open it up this way, you're going to see Eco Pure along the top. And notice how that simply and easily, it has these catches, these grooves, it just installs right back in. Now, if we get into the guts of the helmet itself, remember, the Arai is going to use a 5-density EPS, where somebody like a Shoei is only using 2 densities. Again, multi-density is better energy management. It's more precision, more fine-tuned. Again, it's one of the things you're investing here. And if we pop the snaps along the back, we're going to see how this bad boy comes out. I'm going to show you the fact that the new Signet-X and Quantum-X have a much more new school approach to the comfort liner. Notice, 3D design, fully removable. We now have adjustability, where you can actually fine tune how tight or how loose this is around the crown of the head. Along the side, this area right here, all of this is completely removable, fine tunability. You know, it's funny, Arai has continued to put the snaps on the front, really on the forehead, but I'll tell you, we don't feel them when we wear this helmet. So again, a lot of times with other lesser manufacturers, I'm gonna gripe that you're gonna have 2 pressure points. On the Arai helmet, the way it's constructed, we don't typically feel them. And if we look at it from the inside out, remember, a multitude of materials, antimicrobial, wicking, knowing that they need to perform. Notice the mesh with a lighter density foam at the top to promote airflow through the helmet. Everything about this is meant to spend, you know, a 500-mile day to get off, and you might gripe about the position of your bike, you might gripe about your handlebars, you might gripe about your boots, but the goal here is to not have you griping about the helmet, because ultimately it shouldn't get in the way of the magic or the comfort of your ride. Remember, we do believe that these actually are well suited to use a clamp mount for a comm unit system, or even if you're looking at some of the new Cena products, I'm sure they'll make an integrated version on a sticky mount with this hyper ridge down the side here, part of the energy management system. A little tougher to get a sticky mount if you want to go that direction. Now, if we look at the interior guts on our Signet-X and Quantum-X here, typically what we see from Arai, they're sticking with what works. With, remember, 10 millimeter vent holes, again, in a horseshoe configuration, meant to pull air in from the temples, around the ear, extract out the back. Again, doing everything it can to get out of your way, but keep you cool when you have the venting open, and keep it quiet and keep it sealed when you have the venting closed. So remember, in the $400 to $650 range, this is potentially the Apex Predator now. You're gonna spend about $60 or $70 more than the last version of that RXQ or the Signet-Q, again going into the Signet-X and the Quantum-X. But again, you're competing with the RF1200, which in my opinion for around the mid-4s is still that Goldilocks, so attainable for so many riders and really does so much of what people need to do when they take things to the next level when it comes to a performing helmet, a sport-oriented helmet, a track-oriented helmet, or a touring-oriented helmet. With the Arai series now in the Signet-X and Quantum-X, you're really looking at adjustability, fine-tunability, and some of these creature comforts that really the truly seasoned motorcyclist is going to get the full advantage. I did have 3 gripes. Remember, emergency cheek pad removal system. It was the locking mechanism across the face, and it was really a nitpick in how the new mechanism across the rear spoiler works. But ultimately, none of those things are deal breakers for me if you're really looking and saying, I want to invest in the highest level of helmet I can without going to a true race thoroughbred. The next step in your journey, though, is to click the info button, your desktop, your mobile device, visit the product detail page at RevZilla.com, and don't take my word for it. Read other rider reviews. There's a ton of them. People are going to be riding in this helmet and leaving their reviews. Typically, this is a very engaged rider and customer at RevZilla.com, and you should juxtapose everything I told you today of our opinion with what the riders that are using it every day and putting thousands of miles on it are saying. They might come up with some nuance that we might have missed. Now, as always, we're going to ship for free over $39, and if you want to talk to a gear geek, see us at RevZilla.com or 877-792-9455. Thanks for watching our detailed breakdown of the new Arai Signet-X and Quantum-X helmets at RevZilla.com. Subscribe to us at RevZilla on our YouTube channel. Stay up to date with my opinion, the latest and greatest in the moto universe. I'm Anthony. We'll see you next time.